The man that invented the warm-up guy, getting audiences pumped up for 35 years for the top shows, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, sitcoms Friends, Cheers, Mork and Mindy, Full House, Laverne and Shirley, Growing Pains, and more. Who's the Boss as well. Comedy on Business Talk with Jim Campbell. Bob Perlow is a comedic entertainer who creates, produces, writes, stars in tape performances, a product of TV. He spent more than 35 years as a warm-up comedian. During that time, he also received writing credits for Who's the Boss, Laverne and Shirley, among others. He's currently the star of a one-man multimedia show, Tales from Hollywood, which chronicles his career in the entertainment world, and he's the author of The Warm-Up Guy, appropriately named. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Good morning. How's everything?
We think you can do radio warm-up as well, so we'll find out. And by the way, since you're from Rhode Island, we want to say that we've just gone on WADK 1540 AM up in Newport, Mondays through Friday, 1 to 2 o'clock. All right, let's jump in. What is a warm-up guy? How did you invent it? And how is it different than what we think it is?
Well, we're going to jump ahead because it was on Laverne and Shirley one night. I was a writer, and Gary Marshall, who was the genius producer of Laverne and Shirley, came up to me as a writer. He goes, Bob, why don't you go out, talk to the audience, be funny. And that one night changed my whole life. It was, at the time, it wasn't really a job. It was something that fledgling writers did for the show just to keep them busy. And usually it consisted of saying, hey, where you from? Hey, where you from? Hey, you having fun? And I thought, gee, this is kind of staid and boring. And I brought it to another level, and it just blossomed from that. Gary Marshall, like I said, one night did this.
Okay.
Go out, be funny. But then, like I said, it wasn't really a job. It was just something that the writers did, and the shows would give us $25 or $50 to do it. But out of necessity, and I say this because after Laverne and Shirley, that was my first writing job, things dried up a little bit. But I knew I became pretty adept at doing the warm-up. So I said, gee, maybe this could amount to something. And like I said, there weren't any professional warm-up guys at the time. It was just writers. So I went to another show. It was called Angie. Donna Pascal, who was in Saturday Night Fever, and a few other, Doris Roberts. I went to them and said, look, I know that you have your writers do the warm-up. I'd like to come in and do the warm-up for you, you know. And the producer said, well, you know, we have our own people. She said, how much? And I said, the ungodly sum of $200. And she said, no. Oh, God, no. We don't pay that kind of money. So I said, all right, then I'll tell you what, I'll do it for free. No, this is a ploy on my part. I go, if it makes a difference, then we'll sit down and talk, but I'll give you one for free. And if you like it, then we'll talk. So my trick was that at the time, like I said, the warm-up guys, all they did was go, where you from? Hey, nice to see you. Where you from? I said to myself, maybe if I make a big deal out of the producers and the writers and the cast, that they will really feel the difference. So I went out there and I had music. I came really fully prepared. And I made I go, ladies and gentlemen, you know, you come to a show like, you know, I didn't go, where you from? I go, you come to a show like this and you see the actors and it's a great show, but ladies and gentlemen, there are some people behind the scenes that really make this thing go. There are people that are geniuses. There are people that are good human beings. These are called producers and writers. I'd like to introduce every single, and I had this fanfare of music in the background. And what I did was played upon their egos, yeah. And they said, "Wow, you're good." And, you know, it was just because I made them out to be kings. And also, Yeah.
Were you nervous doing this when you first started out and you're thrown out there?
I'm sorry?
Were you nervous when you were first doing this?
You know what? Not one bit. And people, for 35 years I did it. And from day one, from when Gary Marshall said go out and talk to them, I felt so comfortable that it was crazy. And then for my whole career, people would bring that up. Do you get nervous before a show? And I'm thinking, if I got nervous and anxious before a show, that would be the worst job in the world. I did this 6-7 days a week, sometimes 2 shows a day. I mean, how nerve-wracking would that be if I got nervous? So, short answer, no. I felt very comfortable from day one. This maybe comes from the fact that before Laverne and Shirley, I was in an improv group with Jay Leno and a few other people in Boston. So I was a little bit used to being on stage. Plus, before that, I was a college teacher in Boston. So it wasn't that odd for me to be in front of people.
Give us a flavor. These shows were like 30-minute shows, which meant about 20 minutes plus 10 minutes of commercials, right? How long did this go on for to a taping in general?
Let's see. What's the word I'm looking for? Forever. Oh my God, that was. When you say, were you nervous? No, I was tired. The shortest show was, and there's a reason for this, was Who's the Boss? And the reason that was the shortest taping was because Tony Danza, when they say, who's the boss? It should have been, he's the boss. He was the boss. And nobody else could get away with this. When he thought that he had the scene done, he would say, we're moving on. And the producers and the director would say, okay, we're moving on. Whereas other shows, they were afraid that they didn't get it. And they wanted to be, it was pretty much their fear of missing a shot. So they would overshoot it. And every show was 5-6 hours. And in the book, I think you guys know, Friends was regularly 7 to 8 hours. And that's not even counting the fact that these people leave their hotels at 2 p.m. because they want good seats and they're waiting in line outside. That's not even part of the 8 hours. The 8 hours, the clock starts when I say, hey, welcome to Friends. So wow. It's much more than the 8 hours.
Bob, let me ask this. These guys are talented guys, and why wouldn't they do live to tape and just go right through it like on The Tonight Show or something, or like we're doing right now?
This goes back to them being afraid. They have one shot at this one night a week, and if they don't get it, I mean, they tear the sets down, and they're moving on to the next week, so they can't go back and get it, and they want to make sure they have every single angle, every single shot, and each scene 3 to 4 times. And that was, in my estimation, awful, because it's almost like somebody telling you a joke. Go, hey, 2 guys go into a bar, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's funny. 2 guys go into you just told me that joke. And 4 or 5 times later, not only is it not funny, the audience is pissed. They're going, hey, we saw this 5 times already. But in answer to your question, why don't they just do it live to tape? They want the audience there. They think that what they're doing is so brilliant and so great that they're going to laugh at the same time each time. And to be honest, it just doesn't work that way, but that's the way they do it.
And so you're basically doing improv for 8 hours in the case of Friends in between, breaks, right?
Oh, yeah. And this lends itself to why comics don't do well at warm-ups, because usually comics have a set and jokes. And once they go through that, they go, oh, I'm a big, the audience is laughing. They're a big hit. And meanwhile, now they're looking at another 4 hours, and they really don't have the chops to do that. Whereas I don't tell jokes. I just make it up as we go along. And it's more schmoozing and making them feel comfortable rather than joke, because, to be honest, that's what the show is doing.
One quick answer, and you'll probably sidestep it. What did you get the warm-up compensation up to at your peak? I mean, was it ending up being a big bucks kind of thing?
Nah, $4,000 a night.
That's not bad. All right, next we're going to talk The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and we have a surprise for Bob coming up.
Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
We're back to Pioneer TV sitcom warm-up guy, Bob Perlow, and we've got a little surprise for you right now.
Who's that? Who's that on the air you got here? Who's this guest? What's he do?
I don't know what he does, Bob.
Who that? Who that?
Who? You know who you're talking here to?
What are you doing there? What you do warm-ups? Like in a gym? Is that it? Is that what this is? You're doing warm-ups in a gym and you're on radio now? What the heck?
So, Bob, who is this guy?
Oh, God.
Know.
Yeah, he forgets. He forgets so soon, you know?
Let me give you a hint. In the book, you call him Gino all the time.
Gino!
Yeah, Bob!
out of context.
How are you, man?
That's my writing partner for years.
That's right. Yeah.
How did you guys collaborate? I mean, did you one guy wrote it, then you'd revise it? How'd you work together?
No, we just
You know
worked.
what? We had an interesting style. I mean, it was so tight, right, Gino?
Oh, absolutely. We just sat down and tackled it. We would stay up all night writing the script. And
you're funnier than him, I assume, right?
Well, of course. But, I mean, Bob would be nothing without me. You know. But anyway. But it worked out really well because we'd go back. We get all the notes from the producers, and we go back to Bob's house, and we just stayed up all night writing the entire script, which was just the first draft. You know, it wasn't good, you know, but you have to go. You get it down, and then you fix it. And
that was it, you know.
Yeah.
We said this so many times that, you know, what are we going to write anything? They say words, even if it makes no sense. It doesn't have to be funny. It's just the outline.
Yep, get it down. Get it down.
Yep.
All right, I want to hear you guys. You both roomed with Leno in different capacities.
Yes.
Let's talk Leno.
Okay. I met Jay when I when I couldn't I was at Stanford, UConn, and I transferred up because I couldn't do organic chemistry, so there went my pharmacy career.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let me touch any drugs, you know. So anyway, I'm transferred up there, and I met Jay the very first day I was at Emerson, first day on my own in Boston. Folks dropped me off.
Wow.
I'm in Boston in 1969. Great time to be there. And I'm walking around. I went down to the student union, and then this guy comes in, and he sees me, and he comes walking over to me, and I go, I don't know anybody. Why is he looking at me? And then I realized, I saw him in the dorm when everybody's unpacking and all that kind of stuff. So we're talking, about, we're ranking on people, real mature things you do. And we started talking cars. Now, I love cars, and this guy liked cars. And we're talking for 15 minutes. Have no idea who either one of us is. And he was a year behind me. I was 20, so he was 19, I found out. And finally I said, hi, by the way, I'm Gene Braunstein. He goes, hi, I'm Jay Leno.
Wow. And
we've been friends for 50 years this year. That's how this whole thing started. We're still in contact, and so is Bob.
And he's a great guy. Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, tell us your story then.
Well, basically, I'm a little ashamed of this because it
You? Wait a minute. You ashamed?
Yeah, me.
Bob?
And Gino, you'll remember. I'm in Boston. I'm teaching at a junior college, and at the time in the '70s, they had the underground newspapers.
Yes.
And I answered an ad. The ad said, "Are you funny? Call this number." Now, it takes, somebody
Chutzpah.
stupid special to answer an ad like that. So what kind of ego do you have? But Jay answered the same ad.
Oh, my God.
And that's how we met. And this was an ad from a guy who was putting together an improv group in Boston, and that's how we got together. And then obviously, he was friends with Gino, and then we got together, and then years later we teamed up to become the writing team that we became.
Now,
but basically, it's we answered the same ad.
Which is an amazing story. I got a sense from your book, last scene, that he knew he was destined for something at a very young age. You said that he wouldn't even go to a nude beach because he didn't want the risk of, 20 years down the road, a picture coming up. Did you get a sense that he thought he was going someplace?
He told... he did. He knew. He told... I'd go up to, with a couple of guys. We'd go up when we were in college. We'd go up to Jay's parents' house in North Andover and have Sunday night dinner. And his parents were wonderful people. Bob knew them also. Really nice people. And Jay, we went upstairs to look at his model cars and all that kind, which is all he had back in those days, And he said to me and a friend of ours, Lou Saltzman, who was there, he said, "I'm going to get the Tonight Show."
You're kidding. He's 19 years old.
He's 19. He said, "I'm going to get the Tonight Show," and we said, "Okay, that's great. What's for dinner?" And what? But it was, he was.
Was it Drive that he had at that age, or just
he was just so funny, and he just knew he was focused. He knew what he wanted to do, and he was going to do it.
And he go ahead, Bob.
He worked so hard at it. I mean, he would go in L.A. to the Improv and the Comedy Store, and that was when it was no money, not little money, but no money.
That's
because
right.
the owners at the time said, "Hey, we're giving you guys a break. You should feel glad that we're putting you up so you can get a sitcom." Meanwhile, they're making a fortune, and the comics are getting zero. And they went on strike. That was when the Comedy Store strike and the Improv, and that was with Letterman and Gary Shandling, all
everybody.
The comics. Yeah.
The other celebrities or people who want to be celebrities should look at what Jay does. He knows how to talk to people. He's not one of these, "Oh, I'm eating, get out of here." Yeah. He's always kind and engages people. They want to talk a little while, he'll talk with them. And he goes, "You want to take a picture of us?" Yeah. And people go, "Really?" "Yeah, come on." He always has a blue Sharpie with him. So if somebody wants an autograph, he's ready. Because most people aren't ready to meet a celebrity,
So he's genuinely a nice human being.
He's a great human. Absolutely. He is the guy you see.
And the fact that you've been friends for 50 years is all you need to know. It's not like he left his friends behind as he made whatever, $25 billion a year or whatever.
Right.
Is it true that he banked? I guess he had the Tonight Show and then all of his road stuff. That he banked one of those just every year.
Yeah.
So he's a conservative guy.
Very, absolutely. Actually, he is. Yeah, and he's got some great
cars.
What?
Here's a telling story about Jake. He is of the mind that if you're nice to one person, they'll tell 300 people what a great guy you are. If you're not nice, like Sean Penn, "Get away from me, get away," they'll tell 1,000 people what a jerk you were. And it takes less time to be nice rather than to have a confrontation.
That's perfect. That's exactly how I wanted to end the segment, and you just did it for me. We've got more on Bob Perlow's sitcom warm-up stories coming up. Gene Braunstein, thanks for having you in. Great segment.
Thank you. Take care, Bob.
Hi, I'm Robert Reese, and if you'd like to learn from the top CEOs in America, join me weekday afternoons at 5 p.m. for the Best of the CEO Forum on 1540 AM WADK, Newport, Rhode Island.
And we're back with Bob Perlow. He's written a book called The Warm-Up Guy, and he was apparently the legendary warm-up guy in Hollywood. as we've just heard from Gene, and his book is great. I want to talk a little bit about some of the egos and stuff like that you've dealt with. I was surprised on the writers. Laverne and Shirley, I think, was the show. That first of all, how the writers are kind of not happy people, how competitive they are, and then even worse, the actors count their lines. Is there that much insecurity out there?
No, more. There's more than that. Oh yeah, it's such a coveted position. Whether again, it's not a position, but whether you're an actor, or writer. I mean, there were a million people that want your job, so you are so protective of that. If especially when you go back to counting lines, and this was early on Laverne and Shirley. The thing you have to remember is Penny Marshall. Her brother was the creator and producer of Laverne and Shirley. So Cindy Williams, Shirley, was really insecure about this, saying, "Oh, I'm getting shortchanged." So we see them counting lines at the table read. So yeah, that happens. And as far as the writers, it's almost it's feral, almost like a dog eat dog in the room. You want to get your joke in the script. I mean, you're pitching, and other guys, believe it or not, it's not a collaborative effort. It's more of my joke is better than yours, and I'm better than you. Oh, yeah, it's awful. That's why the warm up was so autonomous.
Yeah.
As far as staying away from all that, I was thrilled to be able to just walk in and not have to answer to these people or even compete with them.
Tell us now about Tim Allen's meltdown on you.
Yeah, well, what an odd thing. It's one of those things you never forget because it was so odd. I was doing a warm-up on Home Improvement, and we didn't touch on this, but in 35 years, you have good shows. That's not the show itself. I'm saying the warm-up. You have some great shows where everything clicks, and you have some bad shows. I mean, it's just it's a numbers game, and no matter how good you are, just things aren't lining up right. Well, on Home Improvement, this one night, it was I was having a great show, and by me having a great show doesn't mean I was hysterical and I was no. It means I was good. The audience was great, and they were laughing, and everything was working well, and it worked well for the show. In other words, now that I got them up and ready, when they're ready to do the show, okay, we're ready, Bob, and they're ready, and they enjoy the show more. So it wasn't me taking focus. It was me really having a great show in that it worked for the show. So I'm up there. My back is to the set because I'm talking to the audience. And all of a sudden, it's clicking, and I'm waiting to hear from the stage manager, okay, Bob, we're ready. But before that, I hear, hey. And it wasn't, I recognized it was Tim Allen, but the hey was not a good hey. Hay's come in different. This was, the good hey, like, hey, how you doing? And then there's a hey, like, how you doing? And then there's a hey.
Yeah.
Well, it was that hey. And then he said, and I'll never forget it, obviously, he said, there's a show going on down here, too. And evidently what happened, I found out later, that he was in his makeup chair, and he heard all these laughs that I was getting. And again, it wasn't my job to overshadow the show. So I was clicking, and they were into the show, but he was insecure in that, the warm-up guy's getting too many laughs. And the only job in 35 years I was ever fired from. So, yeah, that's Tim Allen.
All right, let's talk about, in Mork and Mindy, tell us about Robin Williams. And actually, he watched you do improv first, right?
Robin Williams. So, yeah, I was in an improv group, and Robin Williams was just one of the kids that was there. And he was... even at the time, much like Jay, you could tell that he was going to be something. This Robin Williams, when he got up, everything else disappeared. And he was, a genius. There was no stopping him. It was nonstop. But, and I say this in the book, it wasn't conducive to a good improv. For improv, you have to all work together, and you have to listen, and, you build. And with Robin, you'd say, yeah, it's a house. Oh, a house. A house is not a home, and then he'd go off for 10 minutes. So it would be tough to work with him. But on Mork and Mindy, I did the warm-up on Mork and Mindy. After the scene was over, he and Jonathan Winters would launch into some of the most brilliant improvisational bits you've ever seen in your life. Can you imagine the two of them just letting loose? It was great.
Was it better than the show?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Because Hollywood can be a tough place. You were actually got an acting part, I think, a segment in House Party with Steve Ducey, and you even did a help the Donald Trump routine when he was having financial problems. But the show didn't make it. How did you deal with that?
It's funny because that brings up so many other failures that I've had. But that's all part of the game. It is. I mean, there was one time, that show, House Party with Steve Ducey, who is now, I think he's vice president or something. He's a big Trump, not just supporter, but voice on Fox News. Oh, yeah. He's Fox and Friends. Okay. Anyway, during my tenure in Hollywood, I've had a lot of missteps and failures, but the thing is, you got to just move on. Again, right from the beginning, when Laverne and Shirley ended, as all shows have to do, they all end. It could have been very easy for me to say, you know what, I gave it a shot, it didn't work. Instead, I loaned myself out, like I said earlier, to another show, and that started a whole new career for me. So, anytime you have a setback, you just got to keep pushing forward.
And that show was filmed in Studio 8H, right? The Saturday Night Live studio.
Wow, was that? Yeah, for that 1 year in New York, we worked at 30 Rock. I mean, right above the Radio City Music Hall sign, going into 30 Rock every day. And we would do our show Monday through Wednesday. We would do 2 a day. And then Saturday Night Live would come in, and they would do it up until Saturday night. So there was a lot of history, and just, it was overwhelming as far as where we were.
Let me ask you a question, just, sort of out of left field. You worked on Full House, and Lori Loughlin was in that show, and now she's been in this huge bribery scandal. What do you how do you remember her?
She was great. Lori was what she did was wrong, and it's unfortunate. But that doesn't change the fact that, she was just a really sweet girl. And I worked on Full House for over 8 years. And I never saw her upset or even angry one time in the whole thing. She just got caught up in this. The whole... Yeah, it's kind of analogy. The analogy would be the Me Too scandal. These guys, they've all disappeared. I mean, Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose, they left that one day and they never came back.
What was your favorite show to warm up, and what was the worst one?
Easy. Newhart, the one with Bob at the inn. It was almost like a family. He is what you would hope he is when you see Bob. When you're working in Hollywood, you see the real people, and you say, oh, they're nothing like the people that we see on TV. Bob was even more of that. And the worst, boy, there's so many bad ones. Friends only because of the time. But that doesn't take away the fact that it was a great show. I'm not disparaging the show itself. I mean, it was brilliant. It was funny. But, as far as from a warm-up point of view, it was a tough tough show. I've done other shows that just weren't funny. I did a show called The Single Guy. Are you guys familiar with that?
I'm
It
not.
was Jonathan Silverman played the single guy. He had married friends, and they were terrific. Ernest Borgnine was in it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was quite a guy. And it was just a terrible show. I mean, it was a bad, it was a bad show, but it wasn't bad to work on because they were nice people.
We got our final segment with the warm-up guy coming next. And our final segment with comedic talent Bob Perlow. Let me ask you now, if we look at the business of TV, et cetera, it's gone from these classic sitcoms that you worked on to now reality shows. We have a reality president. We've got Netflix, mobile phones. Is TV in a spiral downward? How do you see comedy and TV today?
It's different. I was just about to say it's dismal, but then as I was saying it, in my mind, I'm thinking there were a few shows that are as brilliant as anything I've seen. Veep with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
Barry with Henry Winkler. Big Bang Theory was a smart show. So there are still some vestiges of some really good shows. But you're right. For the most part, they're going to the lowest common denominator. No question about it. And there's so many outlets that they can really water down the product where, they're not funny anymore.
Tell us, folks will want to hear this. You talk about you had a lot of ups and downs. How do you get over the fear of failure, and how did you keep going with resilience, et cetera?
You go back to where you see people who gave up, and that's the kiss of death. They go home. In Hollywood, the buses arrive every day. Buses.
Interesting.
Planes arrive every day from every place in the country of these kids. My theory is, if you're the best-looking guy in Dubuque, Iowa, and you're the best-looking girl in Illinois, and you come out to L.A., you don't want to go back home. But you don't make it in show business because every handsome and beautiful person is out in L.A. They get married and they get normal jobs, and that's why there's so many beautiful people in L.A. But as far as the failure thing, you have to deal with it. I mean, it's fraught with failure. It comes with the job. Nobody has a job. I was lucky. I mean, I was not out of work for over 35 years, which is
wow,
pretty unusual. It had a lot to do with me going sideways. Like, the writing dried up. Let me do warm-ups. Mm-hmm. I was doing warm-ups, and then I got that show in New York, and then I'm doing my show now. And then I wrote a book. So it's a matter of what's next.
Now, you hear this that comedians are often sad or depressed or a lot of neuroses, et cetera. You don't seem to have any of that. No,
because I'm not a comedian. I mean, I come from a whole different place. That was never my intention. And it's in the book, never set out to be in show business. And this is not a template for anyone that wants to be in show business. I literally fell into it. I was playing paddle tennis with a friend, and he said one day, "Hey, want to be a writer?" It was that serendipitous. I mean, it was crazy. No one gets a job like that. It wasn't like I was writing, and he said, let me look at your stuff, and it's good. He just thought I was funny.
Interesting.
And he just got promoted to be a producer on Laverne and Shirley and said, "You want to be a writer?"
Do you see, when you're there and you see all this talent and some make it, some don't, do you see luck? Do you see talent winning out? How does some guys get to be household names and others who don't?
You hit it right on the nose. It's luck, because most of them have the talent. and equal talent. I mean, except for the occasional Robin Williams or Jay, most of them all can tell a joke. They all go on the road. They all do, and then they get a break. And that break then, it used to be Johnny Carson. If you get on the Johnny Carson show,
yes,
he called you over the couch. At that moment, you have a career.
Wow.
It happened to Garrett Shandling. It happened to Jay. It happened to Ellen DeGeneres.
Joan Rivers.
Freddie Prinze.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the talent is pretty much the same level, which is high. I'm not saying it's all, they're all hacks. They're all really good. I mean, to be a stand-up comic, you have to have chops, and they all get up in front. But then they get a lucky break. So yeah, luck is a big component.
Tell us about your one-man show, Tales from Hollywood.
Tales from Hollywood. It's funny. I spent the first 3/4 of my life doing this, and now this part of my life, I'm talking about it. So it's, luckily, and again, just by accident, from day one, from Laverne and Shirley, took pictures of me with everyone I've ever worked with. So I have hundreds of pictures of me on the set, of candid pictures of Newhart and Full House and Taxi and Cheers, and and that's what I do in the show. Instead of just talking about it, I put it up on the screen, and I have videos. And you got to remember, this is before cell phone cameras, so not only did I have to have a camera, I needed a third person to say, "Here, take this picture of me with Newhart." So,
and I'll say there's a lot of great pictures in the book as well. So are you moving the show around city to city? Is that what you're doing?
2 weeks ago, I did a cruise ship where I went from Galveston, Texas to Barcelona, Spain.
Wow.
It was 20 days on the ship, and I did 10 different shows.
Wow.
Luckily, again, because of all of the material and photos I have, I have one with Jump the Shark. You know what that is? That's where that particular moment where you go, it's over. It's, they had a baby, on growing pains. They added a kid. You go, they jumped the shark.
Wow. And
it came from an actual moment where Fonzie, they were out of ideas on Happy Days. And Gary Marshall, and he copped to this for years, said, I got nothing. I said, we got nothing left. We've been on the air so long. How about if Fonzie, with his leather jacket, is water skiing, he jumps over a pool of sharks? And it was so bad that it became the phrase "jump the shark" when you knew a show was over, because they're just scurrying for anything they can find.
All right, well, the Tales from Hollywood's just getting started. The Warm-Up Guy is the name of his book that's just out. The original pioneer for the Warm-Up Guy, sitcoms, Hollywood, Jay Leno. Bob Perlow has been our guest. Business Talk with Jim Campbell. Thanks to Bob. Thanks to our national audience, and we'll see everybody again on Business Talk with Jim Campbell next week.